Good morning. Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's sort of a muggy morning out in my outdoor office this morning. So, of course, over the last couple of months or so, 6 weeks, I've been looking at various topics related to the second coming. And the second coming of Jesus is something worthy of a lot of reflection and study. And along the way, we have encountered some things that are clearly in the Bible and worthy of good study. The different views of the millennium, and one of the topics for today, the mark of the beast. It deserves some real study, and along the way, we have or will encounter some things that are far more fiction than fact, like the rapture business that's pure fiction. And for today, the term antichrist gets used so much in relation to the end of time, but actually, when you read the Bible, it has nothing to do with the end of time. So, for today, I'm going to just clear up a little bit this whole discussion about the Antichrist, the beast, the mark of the beast, and all that sort of stuff. So, where do we get the beast? That comes from Revelation. Chapter 13. I'll read just a little bit there. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, and its mortal wound was healed. And the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, for he had given this authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. It opened its mouth to utter blasphemies against God, blasphemy in his name and his dwelling, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Now, let's skip down a little bit. We encounter also in Revelation a second beast, a beast that comes from the land. And in describing it, also causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So, that is the beast. Actually, there are 2 beasts in Revelation 13. The first beast that comes from the sea, the second beast that comes from the land. When you read that, notice what term is curiously missing. Antichrist. The word antichrist is not found in Revelation. In fact, is never used in the Bible in reference to the second coming. For some reason that is totally unknown to me. A lot of people assume they attach the name Antichrist to this first beast. And I don't have the foggiest idea why, because there's simply no biblical warrant for it. Our doctrine comes from Scripture, and so when you decide you're going to call this beast or the Antichrist, don't do it, because it's not Bible. It's just not there. You do find the term Antichrist used. It is used 4 places in the New Testament. And I'm going to read those 4 occasions. The term antichrist comes in the epistles of John. 1 John 1:18, children, it is the last hour, and as you've heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. And then skipping down a couple of verses to verse 22, who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. And then 1 John 4:3, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and is now in the world already. And then from 2 John 1:7. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess the coming of Jesus Christ in the flesh. Such a one is the deceiver and the Antichrist. So when you actually look at the Bible, which is where we get our doctrine from, the term Antichrist is used for people who deny that Jesus is from God, who deny that Jesus has come in the flesh. And John tells us in those letters that there have been many Antichrists, even at the time of his writing. So the term Antichrist should not be applied to one of the beasts of Revelation 13. It's simply not there. But what we do know about the Antichrist is that there have been actually many Antichrists, and that an Antichrist is anyone who denies that Jesus is from God, and anyone who denies that Christ has come in the flesh. So, what about the mark of the beast? Now, this is something that really does require some serious reflection and thought. But the mark of the beast is probably not almost certainly is not what we think about in popular culture. The mark of the beast is not a matter of trying to figure out who some future one world ruler is going to be. So let's go back to Revelation 13. Revelation 13:18. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. And those terrifying three numbers, 666. So what do we do with this number? If we're going to try to identify who the beast is, what do we do with that number 666? There are two different ways that we can use that number 666 that I think are helpful for us. First is numbers mean things. Numbers had meaning and symbolic value in the ancient world. They don't for us, except for maybe 13 is an unlucky number, or thought to be an unlucky number. But otherwise, numbers don't mean anything for us. In the ancient world, numbers had meaning, and that is magnified in the book of Revelation, which is a book that is full of symbolism. So, in the ancient world, and this, like I said, it's magnified in Revelation, numbers have meaning. So the number 7 is a perfect number. And as a perfect number, it implies power, omnipotence. It's a perfect number. The number 12 refers to the people of God. And so multiples of 12 refer to that. 12 referring to the people of God. You think of the 12 tribes, the 12 apostles. And so when you see the number 12 or multiples of 12 showing up in Revelation, there's your the light bulb should be going off. The number 3 you think Trinity, the number 4 can refer to the natural order. Think of the 4 winds of heaven, the 4 points on the compass. The number 10 is sometimes used to refer to governments of the world. And of course, we all know that 6 is an evil number. It's an incomplete number. It's 1 less than 7. The second thing is a practice called gematria. In both ancient Hebrew and ancient Greek, you didn't have separate numerals. For us, we have the alphabet, A, B, C, D, and E, etc. And we have numerals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not so with both ancient Hebrew and Greek. For both of those, letters had a numeric value. So the first letter equaled the number 1, second letter the number 2. So to equate that into English, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. What this means is that if we're going to try to calculate who the beast is, we can't just think of someone who has 3 names and each of the names has 6 letters. That doesn't work. I remember a generation ago, some people wonder, is President Reagan the Antichrist because he has Ronald Wilson Reagan as his 3 names, each name with 6 letters? No, that's stupid. So we've got 2 things. Numbers mean things. They have symbolic value. And then gematria, where a letter has a numeric value because you don't have separate numerals. So you add these 2 together, and the most likely candidate for the beast is the Roman Emperor Nero. If you take a Hebrew transliteration of Nero Caesar, or Neron Caesar, you get to 666. It's not perfect, but it is probably the best that we can come up with. The most likely candidate is the Roman Emperor, and Nero did fit the bill in terms of being truly, truly evil. If you've never heard of the Emperor Nero, read about him. He is worthy of being called an antichrist, worthy of being called a beast. So what about the mark of the beast? And when you think about the mark of the beast, first, don't think about a microchip in your hand or something like that. Don't think about that. That takes us into the realm of science fiction, and if it's in the realm of science fiction, far distant future, then we don't have to worry about it. It does not matter to us. What is the mark of the beast? In the ancient world, it's common that slaves, particularly disobedient ones, got tattooed or branded. Devotees of a god. And sometimes got a mark signifying devotion to that god. That was a culture where, in a lot of instances, participation in the cult of the emperor, the worship of the emperor, was required to practice a trade. And now you see where the mark comes in. How far will you go? How far are you willing to go in order to live your life? How far are you willing to go in order to participate in an economy, to practice your business? That's where the reflection on the mark of the beast comes in. We don't need to look at the mark of the beast as a microchip in your hand, something worthy of science fiction. When we do that, it has no bearing on how we live. It's conveniently tucked away in the realm of fantasy. But when you look at it and you reflect on what it meant for them, for the people who received this letter, and then you apply that the same principle to our lives. How far are we willing to go to accommodate the culture? How far are we willing to go to practice our trade? What practices will we adopt? Reflect on that as you think about the mark of the beast. So much of what we think we know about the Antichrist and the mark of the beast is purely fiction. It's more science fiction than fact, more science fiction than theology. But think about Antichrist. Anyone who denies that Jesus is from God, anyone who denies that Christ has come in the flesh, and the mark of the beast. The beast was probably Nero, a truly evil, evil emperor. And in not taking the mark of the beast, how far will we go? How far are we willing to go to accommodate to the culture, to culture's practices, in order to live out our lives? So, that's worthy of some thought. With that, have a great Wednesday.